Hi, good afternoon or good morning. How's everyone doing? My name is Candace Butler, and I'm here with Justin Aten. We are the CEOs of Rise Up and Lead Forward. Thank you for our time today. So, our purpose is to empower African American women that are in leadership or thinking about leadership. So, we provide tools, we provide actual real lived experiences from different perspectives. So, just a little bit about me quickly. Name is Candace Butler. I am a division director for a staffing company, and I want to introduce you briefly to Justin Aten. Justin.
All right, thanks, Candace. Happy to be back here doing this. I love what we're doing because I remember back when I first started leading a team and I had no idea what to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
had a ton of bad examples and not a whole lot of good ones, a few, but even then, I always felt like there was room for improvement. And so I'm glad to share some things that we've learned along the way. I also
Mm-hmm.
ended up writing a book about a lot of these things, and it was not based on things that I had just came up with. There were things that I was taught by mentors, and one mentor in particular. And I happened to be in a leadership role at the time that once I started receiving and using these things, it just went incredibly well. And my life as a leader was so much better. So I'm really happy to be able to share some of these things. I love the way you said it. Somebody who's either in a leadership role or ready to take that next step in their career and would rather do a little preparation before stepping into it and having a bad experience like I did. Um, so we'll talk about some of we're really still on the foundational stuff. And I love that we get to apply it to what you're currently doing because you're currently doing some exciting stuff, building a new division and growing an opportunity. So, yeah, it's fun. I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we're back.
Well, thank you, Justin. And our prayer is that that you're able, that someone's able to get some real tools out of this to be able to help you in your walk. Because, like, I think about when I knew something was different. I knew I was supposed to lead, had no idea, really didn't have, like, to Justice point, the examples and different things. So I really did a lot of researching and watching different videos, just trying to get anything I can get. You know, the saying goes, you have to see it before you see it. Like, I could see myself leading, but had no idea how the foundation to get there. And the thing about leadership is that you are not only responsible for yourself, you're responsible for everybody who reports to you, everybody who's connected to you. So, you know, the more that you can get preparation for it, the better. Like, you're going to make mistakes as a leader. So I want to open with that first. You're going to make mistakes as a leader. What you do with those mistakes determine what type of leader you're going to be.
Yeah, I love that, Candace. It's so true. I remember thinking as I was starting to lead, thinking that my role was to make sure that everything was smooth, that there were no problems. Like, if there are no problems, that means everything's okay. But quickly I realized that that's not a good mindset to have as a leader because as a leader, you're trying to do stuff and lead a team and like you said, you're a person and you're working with people and you're going to run into problems. So one big mindset thing that I wanted to share today, I think is one of the key foundations actually. Before I would start talking about any other details of leadership, if somebody said, what's the one thing I need to know? I would say, start with this. And it is a mindset. It's really a mindset that problems are okay.
Mm-hmm.
Problems are okay. And that's so important because the truth is, most companies, if there were no problems, they wouldn't even exist. Like every company that you can think of the company itself was created because there was a problem. Like Google, for example, the internet came out and there's all this stuff out there, but nobody knew how to find it. So Google created a way to go find it. But without that problem, they had no purpose. So problems are okay. Now, that doesn't mean you just leave them that way. That means that, they're really opportunities and you start looking for solutions. But to me, that mindset is so important as a leader because if you think your job is to make sure things are smooth, you're going to get frustrated pretty quick.
And that's such a good point. And then we have to remember, as employees, we are solutions to a problem. Like the company would not hire us if they didn't have a staff. Like we are actually solutions to a problem. So we have to understand that the problems are purposed and they're great. There are great ways. Like you can't start like solutions if there's no problem. And we as employees are a solution to a problem. We were like in my case, I was hired to create a division because there was a problem with direct hire staffing.
Yeah.
Nobody had the expertise, so they're missing out on a marginal market. So I was hired as a solution to a problem. Justin was hired to do the things that he's doing on the supply chain side of the company that he works for. Because why? He's a solution to a problem. And no matter what organization or where you're working, even like McDonald's, you are a solution to a problem. They got the store open. People need to get food. They need people to cook. They need people to clean. Like they need people to greet people. So no matter in what career or what job that you have in life, you are always a solution to a problem.
Yeah. 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 I love that. I think it just helps you so much as a leader if you kind of get comfortable with the fact that even as you go about doing what you're intending to do, you're going to run into on a regular basis new and more problems, and that's okay. That's okay. Like get comfortable with that because otherwise you're going to get frustrated and burned out, and you don't want that. Because you can start working on things and work hard and get some stuff done, but eventually it's probably going to get overwhelming at some point. But if you can take a step back and say, "Oh, wait a minute, this is okay. I'm part of a solution. Problems bring purpose, and now I start getting creative with things that I can do." So, okay, all right. So I think that's a really big one, and maybe let's start there and talk a little bit about like what you're working on right now. And I'm going to set it up a little bit, and that'll give you a minute to think about maybe where you want to jump in. But the other thing, in addition to kind of that mindset of being okay with problems and kind of recognizing them for what they are, and even appreciating them at some point, and at some point, even learning to enjoy solving them when you get a good system for doing that.
Mhm.
In addition to that, I would say for a new leader, it's also very important to have what I like to refer to as the ABCs of leadership. A is where you are today. Knowing where you are is very important. It's like going on a trip, you got to know where you're starting. B is where you want to be, and B is your end destination. And then C is in the middle, the challenges that you're going to have. And there's some key things about the system that we teach that help you address those challenges, first by identifying the root cause, and then coming up with some countermeasures and some creative solutions. But so knowing that, kind of knowing, that the ABCs, where you are today and where you want to be, I think you do have a pretty clearly defined, at least interim end goal for where you want to be with the division that you are building. Um, when you think about that, what do you think some of the key challenges are that you have to figure out some countermeasures to, and maybe figure out the root causes first, but then their
Mhm.
countermeasures, and then getting into those creative ideas about how to solve them. What are the things that stick out to you as you're embarking on this journey?
So I'm going to take the letters and we're going to break down the letters. We may not get through all this today because I know we have like about 30 minutes or
Yeah.
50 minutes, but I think it's so important for a new leader. The ABC method that we teach is very important. So A, you got to know where you are currently. So when I walked into this company, they did not have, so they are a staffing company, and so they did not have anything to do with direct hire. So direct hire is when you're actually hiring a person as a permanent role. It's not a contingent role. This company only had a certain amount of number of placements, but a whole lot of submissions. So understanding like there's business there, but we're not capturing. So that's my knowing where you are.
Yeah.
Now, where do I want to be? I want to be in a striving, growing, evolving division that's not only growing the inside out, it's growing outside in. So we're attracting more business. We are making our name known in the present. We can do this staffing. We're taking care of our hospitals, which are the most important things. We're taking care of our agencies, which is equally as important. And we are empowering our employees, which is a threefold. I call it the trifecta, is what I call it. And I explain this when I'm talking to clients and agencies and our own team. It's called the trifecta. When all three things work together, then everything's better.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Let's stay on that a little bit because it's easy as a new leader to think, oh, my role is just to complete this task or,
Mm-hmm.
meet
Mm-hmm.
some goal, maybe even that the people I report to have set out for me to meet. But it really
Mm-hmm.
is deeper than that, isn't it? There's more
Mm-hmm.
to it than that. If you really want to not just, meet an individual, a single goal, but create something that can continue to serve customers. And I love that you pointed out grow and not just grow, the division itself, but growing the people that are working within that division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like we get caught up in, okay, this is a task. And see, when you're a leader, it's not about how well you can do the task. It's about how you can empower somebody else to do the task. So as a leader, if you are a leader, you've already proven that you can do task and work, because otherwise you wouldn't be a leader. So the test is not how you can do something, it's how you empower somebody to do something, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're building, so if you're building like a new division or a new department, you want it to outlast you. You want to be able to move into a different area, and a department or division runs like it's supposed to run. So you're creating something that's bigger than you. So you have to think outside of you.
Yeah.
I say that's the most important thing I have learned as a leader. It's not about me no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not about what I can do. It's not about the work that I've done. It's not about me as an individual. It is about what I can impact and change as a collaborative.
Yeah, I love that because some new leaders actually sort of try to make themselves indispensable, meaning you can't do without them because they know so much. It's not documented anywhere. They're the only one that knows it. And unfortunately, the end result is that you're not able to elevate yourself to the next level because you've created a situation where no one else you're not backfilling yourself with other leaders. And that's you know that might feel good in the short term because you feel needed, but in the long term, you set a limit for yourself. That's no good.
Because you're needed.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point. You feel needed, and then you made yourself needed when you don't want to be needed, when you want
Yeah.
to grow and stuff like, but you've made yourself so needed that you can't grow to the next space.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about A, where we are. B is where I want to be. C, challenges. So with particular where I am, challenges are first thing, like getting to know, like I will say this. I had a teacher in college when I was doing education. She always says, learn the mold before you break the mold.
Yes.
So, like as a leader, you want to come in. You want a new leader. You want to come in. You want to change everything. You want to do this better. Like you're so gun ho because you think the reason that you're a leader, you're put in that role because something's wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not always the case. So get in there and learn the mold. So I had to learn what this company stood for. I talked to every employee of this company. I talked about processes, like how they handle things. How did they handle things, in the direct hire space? And then how do they handle things as travel? Like how do they do travel staffing? Because I want to understand everything before you go in, coming in all gun ho. Oh, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change the world. The world may not need to be changed. Everything may not need to be changed. Some things may need to be quick treat. Some things may work well, but need to be applied differently.
Right.
So you have to do an analysis of everything, like get to the root cause. One of the things that's a very powerful tool for me is the A3, which Justin introduced me to like years ago. It is a way that you can just document like what the problem, the root cause of the problems, the analysis, the solution, where you want to be, how you're going to get there, and what things are you going to measure to get there. So I will say, as a new leader, I would get very familiar with an A3.
Yeah.
Because it's nice when you're put in a leadership role. Okay, I'm here because they want me to do something. So something's automatically broke, something's automatically, and this is what it is. But it's not the case. And people will let you come in like that. It won't stop you and tell you and train you. I have actually experienced that. You come into a leadership role. Oh, I'm going to change this. What? No, it's not necessarily what that is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would say as a new leader is to humble yourself
Yeah. That's great advice.
and learn what's going on. Get the full perspective before you go in trying to change anything. You know, get the full perspective, set realistic expectations. So challenges me going to do companies, I had to learn the company. I had to learn how they do staffing and how they do everything because everything is tied to my division. So as a division, I have to know not only how they staff, how they bill, how they train their employees to staff, learn the communications that's happening between the agencies and our staff, and with the hospitals and our staff. How do implementations go? How does billing work? Billing is a huge one because I can have all these great processes and tools, and the billing, nobody gets paid. So if nobody gets paid, my division doesn't grow.
That's a problem. Yeah.
Relationships equal revenue. Like you got to have both. So the first thing, like challenges, is for me to figure those things out. So I've been in my current role about 4 months, and I spent like the first 45 days doing just that.
Yeah.
In the midst of also staffing, but that's because I've had a lot of experience, and it's just that's another conversation we could talk about next time. But those first 45 days of the job is crucial. And your first 90 days, all eyes will be on you.
Yeah. 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 I love that you started there and focused where you are and learning the details. I've seen it happen where sometimes people try to jump, if we call it current state, future state, people want to jump right into that future state, how things should be. If you don't know where you are today and some of the things that maybe they're not working, but they're almost working and they just need some tweaks where you could get some quick wins, they missed that part if you don't take time to really understand. Because even though it hasn't been, there's a problem enough to where something new needs to happen. But even so, there's still some kind of raw materials there that you could miss if you don't take time to really understand that a place where you are today or the current state. So yeah, that's really good.
And so let's talk about where we are. So, like the company that I work for, everybody is great. They do a great job. So you're thinking, like, okay, they do a great job. Then why am I here? Sometimes people need a little direction. So, as I spent that 45 days getting to know people and know how they work and understand how they think, a lot of them like, oh, I can't do perm staffing. Actually, you can, but you have to relate it to, like, I have one young lady, she actually has done permanent staffing, but she did it in the engineering and oil field. So taking what she knows and relating it to healthcare. Sometimes you have to make the bridge. You have to create the bridge because people don't automatically think that one, like, they think because, oh, it's not that Pacific experience, that it won't work in this era. And it actually does because the experience is not the key, it's the mindset
Yeah.
of the experience. So those are things that I have went through and evaluated. Like when I was talking to people, I got to know them, not just what they do, so I can see what matters to them. I can see their strengths, I can see their weaknesses, I can see what they're passionate about. Like when you're getting to know a company is nothing without its people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that reminds me, you said something really critical in there. I want to highlight it. You said relationships equal revenue. What does that mean? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So relationships equal revenue. So when you're going into a company, at the end of the day, you got to make money. Okay. So to run a company, money has to be made.
Yeah.
But what a lot of companies miss is if your people are invested, the money will automatically flow because when people are really invested, they believe in what you believe and they are invested and empowered, then the revenue comes automatically. You don't have to look for it.
Yeah. It's actually a big problem today in general, companies engagement. I mean, there's even this thing out there talking about, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but quiet quitting, which is basically not that it's all bad, but it's sort of a little bit the opposite of when you have an environment where people are engaged and really actually
Mm-hmm.
enjoying not
Mm-hmm.
just because they're enjoying the work, but they're enjoying being part of something
Mm-hmm.
that is doing something good. And
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the external benefits like pay or the intrinsic benefits of a job well done and serving a customer who's thankful and all those things. Again, there may be a little bit of, you know, there may be some decent ideas in there about, oh, hey, let's not overdo it and still have a life too. But if you had to pick between having a company where people show up and kind of put in the time but don't really engage with the process and what they're doing versus a company where people are, like you said, empowered, engaged, performing and delivering, but also really like benefiting and growing personally through that experience. I would pick that,
Mm-hmm.
over an environment where people are just showing up, kind of punching the clock.
And most people, okay, give me just a few more minutes. And I know we're kind of at our time, and
Oh,
I
are we
want
at our time?
conversation. But I want to leave with this one point, and I want
Yeah.
everybody to think about this. It's your why. You must know your why, because when you know your why, then everything evolves around that. So if you don't know why it'll be just a few moments. If you don't know your why is going to sustain you. So I have known for many years my why. I know that I've known like I'm supposed to be here to make an impact and do something. Like my why has been healthcare related. It's been taking care of the patients. Like whoever, I may not be the person taking care of that patient, but I'm the
Right.
person who's making sure the person who's touching that patient is a good
Right.
person and that their hospital or client is supported. So my why is about providing the best service, not only to the patient, but to the people who serve the patient.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. That's so good. I'm going to tell one quick one too because it's sort of the same thing, and I think it's a great point for us to end on. One time I went and interviewed a lady who was there were a bunch of people kind of doing the same thing she was doing, but her performance was just like heads and tails above everybody else. So I said, I need to go talk to her. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went and I interviewed her and I asked her, what are you doing differently than everybody else? And she told me, and this was actually somebody who was resolving pricing discrepancies for purchase orders. So you would think, oh, that's not really, directly connected to a patient. She said, every time I'm doing this, I'm thinking about the patient on the
Mm-hmm.
other end of the work I'm doing. So it really does make a difference because when your work is meaningful, then you can really embrace it and engage in it, and it's got purpose, and that gives you power and passion, and it's just so different than just showing up. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up, and I think it's a good one maybe for us to end on today. 100% know your why.
Know your why, and leaders just don't show up.
Yeah.
They're already in the background. You may not have a title as a leader, but you're a leader. I was a team lead and was a leader. And then I was a regular staffing person
Yeah.
and I was a leader because of my why.
Yeah.
And I led with my why. And that why eventually led to a leadership position, but I was already a leader.
Yeah.
I was a leader at 3 years old, reading and writing at 3. I was a leader being in school, like debate club. I was already a leader before a leader position assigned. I was a leader going out and helping in the community, making sure everybody had food and shelter. So a leader, being a leader is not associated with a leader title. A leader is already leading
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Taking
So if you have a
responsibility.
desire for leadership, you must first have a desire to be a follower, a server, and to lead in something. To be able to be a leader without a title. If you cannot be a leader without a title, then leadership is not for you.
Right. I love that. Candace, I can't say anything better than that to end. I think that's a good one. So good to talk to you and look forward to talking next time. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to next time, and we'll pick back up on. We started with where we are. And then we're going to talk. We will talk about some of the challenges. We're going to be the challenges, or where we want to start with next, because you're
Yeah.
going to run to them, and if you don't know how to assess them, you're going to run away, and you're going to miss. You're going to miss what your purpose for. You're going to have your running shoes that say, "I'm out," because I've been there, and I have been there and almost done that.
Yes. Yeah, I love
So
it. I love it.
I would say to our listeners for the next, like, please interact with us. We have social media. We're on LinkedIn. Like, I would love to hear like your questions, your comments, your real life experiences, and we will have more guests talking about real life experiences. I
Yes.
would like you to think about your why. Don't go into leadership because you're looking for money. You're going to be sadly mistaken. You may make more money, but you're going to have a lot more problems.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be any fulfillment. And if you're not fulfilled and empowered doing it, how are you doing it for other people? So really think about it and know your why. And then next week we'll talk about how to execute that why.